This screencast is for Lesson 12.4, the Urban Game. Important things to know, guys. To complete this lesson, if we go ahead and scroll down to step 1, we need a piece of paper, and this can be like a piece of printer paper or a piece of notebook paper. I'd recommend a piece of blank white paper personally, and a pen or a marker to write with. You guys are going to have to follow the instructions that I read to you in this video. The instructions are located in step 2. The Urban Game. The year is 1700 and the nation is England. The scene is a rural village. To start things out, draw a river across your paper connecting east to west. This river should be around 1 inch wide. Draw a bridge across the river. Draw 4 roads originating from each direction. Mark off a portion of the land in your village as the commons, land that can be used by all. Draw 10 houses, 1 church, 1 cemetery, 1 store, 1 pub, 1 coal mine, and trees. And I'll have keys as to what these things should look like to help you out. Life here in Village England is similar to other villages across Europe in the 18th century. Change traditionally comes by very slowly. Home life and work life were closely integrated as most work was done in the nearby fields or in the home or perhaps adjoining workshops. The family was an economic unit as well as a social unit. Every member of the family worked very hard from sun up to sundown. Unlike France, the English were not rigidly divided into social or legal estates. However, there was a distinct social class system. Most English were poor farmers. A few were middle class like the bourgeoisie of France. They lived for the most part in London. For both peasant and aristocrat, the soil was key. Land was the source of livelihood and well-being. The main occupation of England was farming. Private and public lands were not separated by fences like they were today. Unlike France, most English peasants or farmers did their own land, however small. Villages were connected by a system of dirt roads that became almost impassable during the wet season. People made their own food, clothes, furniture, tools, and homes. Finally, for fuel, there were 2 sources, firewood and coal. Nearly every English village had a coal mining operation. For the next 100 years, a revolution as significant as the Neolithic Revolution, when early man turned from hunting and gathering to agriculture, will completely change life in our little village that we've drawn. Some historians believe this revolution is the most fundamental change in our history. So even though this activity puts us in England, I want you to consider industrialization in the United States. Today we're going to take a minute to see how this boomed. Round 1. It is now 1745. England's geography is unique in that no section of the country is more than 90 miles from the sea, and there are many navigable rivers that crisscross the countryside. An enterprising young capitalist, you, decides to invest money in the construction of a canal. This is not a public venture, but rather a private one. The profits from your canal are astonishing. This new revolution in transportation reduced the prices of raw materials and reduced the costs of transportation drastically. Coal could now be transported from the mines to the towns for half the price of horse wagon transportation. Since you invested your money, thereby making a tidy profit, build yourself one nice home anywhere on the map that you want to live. Don't forget to make your canal going across the river. It needs to run parallel. Round 2. It is 1760. The people of your village need a bit more food and goods to meet the needs of the new inhabitants. Coincidentally, a number of other noteworthy events occurred around 1760. First, a number of new mechanical inventions for farms are developed. One is called the seed drill, and the other is the horse-drawn cultivator. Also, farmers begin to experiment with new, more productive farming practices, like crop rotation, new fertilizers, and new livestock breeding techniques. Consequently, farm production is significantly increased. But there's one problem. Most farmers own small tracts of land. Why should they, or how could they, invest in expensive machines when their land is so small? What's more, it's almost impossible to buy more land from anyone. At the same time, pressure is placed on Parliament by large and small landowning farmers to make more land available. Where is that land to come from? The Commons, of course. A series of laws called the Enclosure Act is passed by Parliament. This means that landowners can buy pieces of common land from the government. Take away half your commons and add one more nice house. Round 3. It's now 1773. A man named Richard Arkwright, you should know this, guys, invents a new machine that can spin and weave cloth 100 times faster than could be done by hand in a farm cottage, the most common way of producing cotton cloth up to this time, the cottage industry or putting out system. He calls his new machine the water frame, because its principal source of power was water. Let's imagine that first the water frame was built in your village, because of a river. Since the water frame was large, a special place was needed, and the first factory producing cotton cloth was built. Add one factory. Remember, the cotton factory needs to be placed on the riverbank. Canal water is not swift enough to generate the power to move the parts of the water frame. Don't add any smoke to this factory. So as we're going through this, you should be stopping at each step and drawing in the necessary items, guys. Round 4. It is now 1774. Workers are needed to work in this new factory. Since many people or women cannot compete with the spinning and weaving of cloth made in the factory, and there are large numbers of poor families who have lost their livelihood due to the Enclosure Acts, you do have an available supply of workers. People move to your village to find work. Add 5 houses, 1 church, 1 pub, 1 store. You may draw additional roads and 1 additional bridge. Round 5. The profits from the first textile factory are enormous. It should be no surprise that Richard Arkwright is referred to with 2 titles, the first millionaire and the father of the factory. New factories are built in your community. Add 5 new factories. Round 6. It is 1780. Unemployed workers from surrounding areas flood into your community looking for work. Although wages are very low, they look attractive to starving families. Housing is in great demand, and for the first time, a new kind of housing is made called a tenement. Here, dozens of families reside under one roof. Add 5 tenements. Round 7. It is now 1781. More workers need to live, eat, shop, drink, and worship. They need the social support services to go along with this demand. Add 1 store, 1 pub, 1 church, and 1 school for those families wealthy enough to send their children, only the boys, to school. Since the workers in the factories work 6 days a week, the only day of rest is Sunday. People flock to your churches, so make them convenient for their tired feet. Round 8. The year is 1785. A man named James Watt invents a new machine called the steam engine. The steam engine replaces the water frame. First, it's far more efficient. Second, it allows factories to be built away from the river. This source of power is more mobile. Capitalists quickly replace their water frames with steam-powered weaving and spinning machines. The main business in England is still textile manufacturing. Now you're adding 10 factories with smoke. Add smoke to all of your other factories. Also, add 1 more nice house, since people keep getting rich. Your town should be getting crowded. Round 9. The year is 1800. A man named Henry Cort has just invented the puddling process. This process makes it possible for coal, which is, fortunately, in abundant supply in England, to be used as the primary fuel in the new iron industry. Consequently, your town is thrust into the new age of heavy industry. Larger factory districts appeared which manufacture iron at low prices and that easily can be transported by your canal. Add 1 new coal mine and a new iron bridge to replace the old wooden bridge. Round 10. The year is 1815. Coal miners are busy mining coal. There is a great demand for coal now. Home heating. Fuel for steam engines for the production of iron. Although in the 1700s coal miners were adults who worked the winter to supplement their wages, in the 1800s they are typically children between the ages of 8 and 14. The work is dangerous and not healthy. Children become victims of black lung, explosions, and accidents. Their growth is stunted as they spend most of their 14 hours of day stooped over. They are malnourished and unable to exercise or eat. Casualty rates grow up. One cemetery drawn. Round 11. It is 1820. The existing canals and dirt roads cannot accommodate the heavy industrial traffic. New experiments with transportation using the power of the steam engine are tried. The most successful appears to be a steam engine that pulls a series of wagons or cars on an iron track. The first railroad is tested and proves to be effective. Add one major railroad line connecting your factory districts to your coal mining regions. Round 12. It is 1827. This new revolution in transportation draws thousands to your community. Soon there is a surplus of workers. Capitalists who wish to ensure their profits decide to hire women and children over men because they can perform the same labor at 1/2 to 1/4 the price. More and more children leave their homes to work in factories. Unemployed men are not able to find work. Depressed, ashamed, and angry about their wives and children toiling in factories, many men turn to crime and social life of the pub. For the first time in England's history, alcoholism appears in epidemic proportions. Add one jail and 2 pubs. Round 13. It is 1835. Using steam engine techniques and iron and soon steel, British manufacturers induced power-driven machinery in the many industries. The production of shoes, clothing, ammunition, and furniture is mechanized, as did printing and paper making. People used machines to cut and finish lumber, process foods, and make other machines. Some new inventions and innovative processed had important byproducts. These byproducts are often developed into separate industries. For example, the iron smelteries used coke, a byproduct of coal, to remove the smelting process. Then, someone discovered that the gases that coal released during the coke-making process could be burned to give light. During the 1830s, London and other large towns became the first communities to pipe in gas and burn in streetlights. Soon, all around England, hundreds of towns use gas to light streets and homes. You're going to add 20 street lamps. I will conclude the steps to the urban game in the next video. So by now, we have gone all the way to round 13, and you should have a very, very busy town.